Having an internet problem right now. We're going to take a second to try and fix it. Oh, it's buffering. Oh, there, we're back. We're back. Thanks very much. That's what happens when you go live and you never know what's going to happen in the world of live internet. And we've got about 3 different internet connections at the Rebel here. We like to have different internet connections in case one goes down. I mean, if you're in the internet business, you really should have a redundancy. And we have, I think, 2 or 3. Thanks for your patience. My point is, Tommy Robinson. Hey, welcome back. Well, I apologize for that snafu there. We're in a strange bunker type environment here at the Rebel, and we had to actually dig a trench to have a special fiber line put in to get good internet here. That was still sort of rickety, so we literally have 3 different companies providing internet to us here at the Rebel, and obviously the main one we relied on there went down. I apologize for keeping you waiting, and I am impressed that more than 100 of you stuck around through that. I think you have a longer attention span than I do. If I was watching something and it went dead for 5-6 minutes there, I have like a 5 or 6 second attention span, so I thank you very much. Oh my God, we're up to 200 already. Thank you very much. Wake Up says extended by 11 minutes. All right, well, I'll see. Maybe we'll go a few minutes longer today. Thank you for sticking around, and please understand that we do have the redundancy. But it took us a while to sort of do the switcheroo there, so thanks very much. As I was saying, we love to talk about things here at the Rebel. One of our mottos is the other side of the story. And boy, when it comes to Islamification and free speech, we really need to hear the other side of the story, don't we? Especially in this age of censorship, when we're really seeing the merger between the alt-left, the postmodern Marxists, and the Sharia expansionists, the soft jihad of censorship that comes along with Islam. The 2 of them have joined forces against our traditional Western values, and the United Kingdom, which was the source of so many of these freedoms, is actually shuttering itself. America, I think, is the leading bastion of free speech in the world. We in Canada are somewhere between the 2. I don't have any news for you today about Tommy Robinson, other than I see the usual suspects are bashing Morrissey, the UK singer, the former lead singer of the Smiths, for being an independent thinker, for saying he doesn't just like Tory Labour, he wants another one party to have a chance. He came out in support of a party in the United Kingdom called For Britain, and its leader Anne-Marie Waters. And he said that the imprisonment of Tommy Robinson was shocking. I should note, and I read to you some of Morrissey's quotes yesterday, I should note that Morrissey did not even say, I agree with everything Tommy Robinson says and does. I mean, it's almost impossible for anyone to say they agree with everything someone else does. All Morrissey said is that the treatment of Tommy Robinson at the hands of the court was shocking. And indeed it was shocking. And we know it was shocking because every media outlet in the UK, left or right, reported on it. You don't report on unremarkable things. It was truly remarkable. But because Morrissey is not joining the 5 minutes of hate against Tommy Robinson, he was denounced. But today we're going to talk about 3 things that don't have to do with our good friend Tommy. And that is a little bit of news from the States and a little bit of news from here in Canada. We're going to talk about Donald Trump pardoning 3 people. I understand that Trump has pardoned a grand total of 7 people in his 500 days as president. And that contrasts with well over 1,000 people that Barack Obama has either commuted or pardoned in his 8 years. So Donald Trump seems to be far behind other presidents in using that presidential power, but he used it actually just yesterday, I think, in the case of a woman who had served more than 20 years, and we'll give the details of that story in a moment. A few interesting pardons done by Donald Trump, and I want to read them and show you some videotape of them because it's the left hates it. The left hates it that Donald Trump is pardoning people that the progressive left would claim to support, but they never lifted a finger for. So we'll talk about that. I also want to show you Samantha Bee, the offensive comedian. Man, I'm allowed to say she's offensive. I don't want to censor her or anything. I think she's just... And I think actually there can be some great comedy that's offensive. I mean, Eddie Murphy, when he came on the scene, was shockingly offensive. I actually don't mind offensive comedy. I think Howard Stern's pretty funny, and I can't think of anyone more offensive than him. The thing is, what actually offends me about Samantha Bee is she's not funny. She's not funny. All right. And I want to start off, though, with a story that Canadians will find interesting, and Justin Trudeau's fans and critics around the world will find interesting. It's Justin Trudeau, the self-described male feminist. Well, wouldn't you know, an old editorial has surfaced. It's from the year 2000, so granted it was 18 years ago, but Trudeau was in his mid-20s. He was not a child, he was a grown-up. And this story, written by a newspaper in Creston, British Columbia, accuses Justin Trudeau of groping a pretty young journalist who made the mistake of getting within hand's reach of Trudeau. Keep that up on the screen, I'm going to read it. It's an editorial called Open Eyes. And let me quote, because it's this excuse that I think is even more dramatic. "I'm sorry. If I had known you were reporting for a national paper, I never would have been so forward." Those were the words that were spoken to, put that back up there, I want to keep reading a little bit more from the story to explain it. Those were the words that were spoken to in advance, the Creston Advance reporter, by Justin Trudeau, son of former Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, on August 4th. Trudeau, who was in Creston to celebrate the Kokanee Summit Festival put on by the Columbia Brewery, apologized a day late for inappropriately handling the reporter while she was on assignment, not only for the Advance, but also for the National Post and Vancouver Sun. "If I had known you were reporting for a national paper." It's not a rare incident to have a young reporter, especially a female who's working for a small community newspaper, be considered an underling to their more predominant associates and blatantly disrespected because of it. But shouldn't the son of a former prime minister be aware of the rights and wrongs that go along with public socializing? And it goes on to describe Justin Trudeau groping someone. The fact that this story has remained unreported during Justin Trudeau's election in 2015 and during the whole Me Too movement, and only has come to light now on the internet, shows you how calcified Canada's media party is. I'm going to show you Breitbart.com, which actually did a story on it. Now, Breitbart.com is based in the United States. Justin Trudeau accused of groping reporter in 2000. Look how they started. In a recently resurfaced editorial, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau appears to apologize for inappropriately handling female reporter, and it goes on. As of this moment, I don't see any mainstream media in Canada, or actually, other than Breitbart in the States, covering this story. If it was about Donald Trump groping someone in the year 2000, of course we would hear about it. We know that. We did hear about it. It was probably the biggest cannon blast at Donald Trump in the 2016 campaign. Not that he had groped someone, but rather that he had talked about groping someone in a locker talk banter with a reporter from NBC, and they recorded the audio. Why is a grope by Trudeau that he apologized for the day later, saying, "I'm sorry, I wouldn't have been so forward had I known you were a reporter, because then you would tell people about what I'm really like"? Why is that only reported by the foreign press? It reminds me of when Justin Trudeau got in trouble for that people kind comment. Can we pull up the people kind video clip? You know what I'm talking about, or maybe some of you don't. A few months back, Justin Trudeau was doing a press conference, sorry, not a press conference, was doing a town hall meeting. And he was asking severely normal Canadians, the little people, for their questions. And one woman went on a little bit about women are the future of the world and we love women. Let me know when we've got that clip, guys. And she was saying that, well, we have to, the sake of mankind or something. And he interrupted her. He positively interrupted her and say, no, we don't say mankind. We say people kind. Now, that's actually not a thing. The word people kind is not a real word. Here, let me show you the video just to remind you what that looked like.
So we'd like you to look
we like to say people kind, not necessarily mankind, because it's more inclusive.
There we go, exactly.
So he interrupted her and he mansplained to her, but he made up a word. There's no such thing as people kind. Some people say humankind. So he's such a male feminist. And everywhere he goes, he talks about what a male feminist he is. He's in high-level negotiations with Donald Trump of the United States right now about a NAFTA free trade agreement. He went to Davos, Switzerland to speak to the World Economic Forum, and he talked about bringing feminist policies into the boardroom. He's never been in a boardroom, of course. He's never run anything other than his mouth. He's brought in requirements for oil and gas industry in Canada to meet a gender analysis. I don't really know how you do a gender analysis of oil and gas other than to say, well, in Canada we actually allow women to drive cars, not so in Saudi Arabia. Maybe that's our gender analysis. So Trudeau is such a hot male feminist, and it is my thesis that the noisier a man is about being a male feminist, the more likely he is overcompensating and preempting and laying down, but I'm a good guy message tracks for when his Me Too moment comes out. If you look at every single Me Too predator, from Harvey Weinstein at the top on down, they're all male feminists. In Canada, the worst Me Too moment was a women's studies major who had a job at the CBC. His name was Jian Ghomeshi. He talked about what a feminist he was. He spoke in that sexy voice all the time. Ladies, I'm really on your side. He was a male feminist. He actually took women's studies. And it turned out that he would physically smash women in the face on dates again and again and again and again. The CBC heard of these accusations. They actually set up a war room to discredit the accusers. And he was finally revealed and fired. My theory is the louder the male feminist, the more likely is they're covering up their own track record of misconduct. And wouldn't you know it, Justin Trudeau, a born-again feminist, is credibly accused of groping by a reporter. Well, why has that reporter been silent all these years? Who is that reporter? We still don't know. Can you imagine that you are actually a reporter who was actually groped by Justin Trudeau, according to its Creston Advance, and you won't even report it because maybe you're actually in love with Trudeau yourself? I want to show you again how foreign press cover Canada's gropey Trudeau's more than the Canadian press does. I just sent, here's an old article. If we could put that up on the screen for a second here. This is from a U.S. newspaper. Here it is. Pierre gave her a black eye. Now, what are we talking about here? Let me call up this original here. It's from the Milwaukee Sentinel. Can you keep this on the screen for a bit? So this was a story from March 28th, 1979 in the Milwaukee Sentinel. So this isn't some obscure blog. This isn't some Twitter. This is in the age of bricks and mortar newspapers. Well, what can I say? We're having internet problems. I don't think it's the deep state trying to shut us down. I think it's just crappy internet, and I apologize to you. We still have 184 folks sticking around. Maybe they're sticking around for the chatter. I don't know what you heard me say there before we were cut off, but I was reading from the Milwaukee Sentinel, which is a mainstream publication. It's not just an obscure blog or Twitter feed. We're talking about 1979 here, where Pierre Trudeau beat Justin Trudeau's mom, Margaret Trudeau. Let me read 3 key paragraphs in case that was cut off. So I'm reading from the Milwaukee Sentinel, March 28, 1979. And again, my point here is Trudeau men aren't exactly the nicest when it comes to women. Justin Trudeau has a hell of a role model when it comes to women. And as usual, it falls to the foreign press to have a critical review of the Trudeaus more than the Canadian press. So let me read from this Milwaukee Sentinel article. March 28, 1979. Pierre slugged me, she said the next morning. He's given me a black eye. But things are going to be okay. He doesn't mind my being a photographer. Actually, I was quite pleased. It was the first time in a very long while that I'd been able to get a response from Pierre. He got all his hostility out and he hasn't shown me so much attention in years. It showed he really loved me, she said contentedly. In a strange way, it's made us closer. I guess I felt this was his way of showing he cared. Pierre must have felt closer to me because that night he was very macho. All right, I'll stop reading, but it's a very lengthy article about how Justin Trudeau's dad, Pierre Trudeau, beat Margaret so badly he gave her a black eye. I'm not saying that Justin Trudeau beats women. I don't think Justin Trudeau does. But I'm saying that Justin Trudeau grew up in a home where beating his mom was normal. It was a bizarre marriage to begin with. Pierre Trudeau was decades older than Margaret Trudeau. He married her, she was 21 or something, I'd have to check, and he was almost triple her age. It was doomed from the outset, but I don't know, it was just too glamorous for anyone to, any fancy people to object to. And maybe that's the same with Justin Trudeau. He's just too glamorous for people to object. I think that we know only a fraction of Justin Trudeau's private life. We know from his own confession that he loves doing illegal drugs even since he's become MP. You'd think he'd sort of grow up. And as MP, even if he loved drugs, that maybe he would at least follow the law as the top lawmaker. And if he didn't believe in marijuana laws, then he should revise them. But what other things does he do? We know he loves alcohol. Can we call up the clip of Justin Trudeau meeting with David Axelrod in Chicago? And again, I don't think there's anything illegal about drinking to excess and getting so drunk you're wobbly, but we've seen from the manifests and the access to information requests about Justin Trudeau's flights on Canada's version of Air Force One that they consume thousands of dollars worth of wine on these flights. I mean, maybe it's just a few extremely expensive bottles, but I don't think so. I think they're getting drunk on these planes. And again, I'm not against people drinking, and I'm not saying that the Prime Minister can't drink. I think it's a little bit dangerous to be drunk as the Prime Minister, because you never know when a shocking tragedy or incident might strike and you need your wits about you. Both George W. Bush and Donald Trump are teetotalers. Bush because he used to be an addict and went cold turkey. Trump says he's never had alcohol ever since he was a young person. He knew it would be wrong for him. You don't want a drunk as your president or prime minister, because what happens if, God forbid, you're drunk and a 9/11 happens at 1 a.m. when you're drunk? How do you make decisions when you're drunk? Take a look at this video of Justin Trudeau meeting David Axelrod in Chicago. I don't know why Trudeau was meeting Axelrod. He's a former big shot in the Obama campaign. Trudeau meets with Democrats instead of meeting with Trump's team. We're trying to negotiate a NAFTA deal. Take a look at Trudeau so drunk, he was literally wobbling. 1 wobble, 2 wobbles, 3 wobbles. Take a look. It's longer than that. There's another version where he steps back. That's a good one. You see the first wobble and you see the second wobble, but that goes longer because when he sits down, there's a third wobble. If we can find that, I'd like to show it. I mean, you get the feeling there. He was sort of staggered a little bit, but I think if you see when he sits down, you get the full impact of it. It's not critical to show it, but I guess my larger point is, we've never actually vetted Justin Trudeau, just the same way Barack Obama was never actually vetted. Wasn't it something that we only learned about Barack Obama hanging out with Louis Farrakhan, the racist Nation of Islam leader, after 8 years of Barack Obama as president? So you're saying that no reporter, no investigative journalist, no private eye knew that Barack Obama was chummy with Louis Farrakhan until after Obama was president? I'm sorry, I don't believe that. There's so many things about Barack Obama that we never knew. There was huge gaps in his history. No one recalls him from his student days at Harvard. He was the editor of the Harvard Law Review, but he actually never published anything, never wrote anything. Where was he? Who is he? What was he doing? 8 years as president, we know so little about him. Not so with Donald Trump, whose life has been inspected minutely. Justin Trudeau, we don't know his history. We don't. We know that he boasted once to an Iranian newspaper that he had been to 90 countries, just sort of as a tourist. Can you even name 90 countries, let alone visit them? If you visited 4 countries a year, and I mean, I'm not talking about just going to, you could go to a bunch of little European countries, I suppose, in a week, but 90? You're traveling to all the continents, you're taking years. What was he doing? What was he like? Besides marijuana, what drugs was he into? Did he get into any criminal trouble? What do we know about him? Here we have a story from the Creston Advance that he groped a reporter in 2000 and then said, whoops, I didn't know you were an important person, I wouldn't have groped you. What else is the media covering up about Justin Trudeau? Because our Canadian media is very docile. I don't quite know. All right, I apologize again for the problems with the live stream there. I promise we'll get it tidied up for tomorrow. I thank you for sticking around. Looks like we have 500 people back. I salute you. I salute you for coming back. I think we should proceed with the next item because it's already 12:34 and we spent a little bit of time with our internet snafus. I want to show you something that I found heartening. Donald Trump has used the power that a president has to pardon. That's an awesome power. You could theoretically use that power to pardon a murderer or a terrorist if you want. Obviously, it's something that you want to use rarely. You don't want to just pardon en masse. Theoretically, that could be done. There's no limits to it. Theoretically, the President of the United States could pardon an entire prison. Now, often presidents wait till the last day of their term to do the heavy lifting of the pardoning because they do pardons that they know the public will not like, and so they don't want to do it when they can take any political flack. Donald Trump doesn't care. He's proud of his pardons. I see a super chat come in. Let me just quickly read it. Rare Groove says, thank you for your support of Tommy. That's all I wanted to say. Well, that's nice of you to say it. I support Tommy because I got to know him and become a friend. I wouldn't say we're that close, but we're more like, that's me and that's him. We're not like, that's me and that's him. No, I'm joking. I visited Tommy probably half a dozen times in the UK over the year he worked for us, and I talked to him on the phone a fair bit. He's quite a character. The thing about Tommy, he's the same in person as he is on TV. He's a little bit of a rascal, a little bit of a troublemaker. Hey team, while I'm just, could you look up a video? Remember that video where Tommy went to the home of a reporter at night, which was a terrible idea, and the cops come, and the cop says, what's your name? And Tommy gives them an answer that's a joke. Do you know the one I'm talking about? I just want to show that clip. Tommy is such a rascal. It just made me think of, he's such a trickster. I want to show you this. And would you make a joke like this to police? I'll show you the video when my team gets it. I see another super tweet from Cindy McSee. Any news on Tommy Free Tommy? Well, unfortunately, we have no news because no appeal has been filed. And if there is no appeal to be filed, we won't have news. He will likely be released before the duration of his 13-month sentence. In Canada, that's called parole. In the United Kingdom, that's called tag. That's just what they call it. Your tag, they put a little tag on your ankle, an anklet, like a GPS that sort of tracks you. So Tommy might get out, who knows, in 4 months or so. That's still an enormous amount of time to serve. I want to get back to Donald Trump, but I hear in my ear that my team has found the video of Tommy. Let me show you this video. So let me just give you some back. My point is what Tommy's really like. He's a rascal, and he's a handful. And so this was some reporter who had called Tommy far right, and Tommy hates that because he's not far right. Being for free speech and against Islamification is not far right, and he hates that because they're just trying to say you're a Nazi, and he's not a Nazi at all. He's the opposite. So he goes to this reporter's house, and we went after dark. I don't think it's a good idea to go to someone's house after dark in an aggressive manner. It's one of the many stresses of dealing with Tommy. I mean, do it in the daytime, but after dark, there's an element of menace. Are you there to rob? I mean, obviously he wasn't, but it's no surprise that the police come. So there's Tommy, and he's been in trouble with the law before, okay? And he's outside this reporter's house, and this reporter's probably some sort of a big shot. And the reporter called the cops, and the cops are coming, and they don't know. Are they going into a hot situation? Is it a robber, or who is it? So this is a stressful situation, right? And what would you or I do? We'd say, oh, crap, the police are here, just go home. Let me show you what Tommy Robinson said when the police showed up at night when Tommy was doing a door knock on some guy's house. Roll the clip.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, no problem.
Right, what's your first name for me, bud?
So it's Phil.
Phil?
Yeah.
Is that short for Philip or is it Phil?
Just Phil.
Okay, just Phil. What's your surname, please, mate?
McGroin.
McGroin.
Yeah.
How are you spelling that?
M-A-G. It's Stephen Lennon. It's Stephen.
You're now giving me a separate name.
That's Phil McGroin. You didn't get it though.
No.
Phil McGroin.
I appreciate you coming from, fella. We're not.
What angers me is that
Phil McGroin. The cop was there writing him up. He's in a little bit of trouble, okay? And that cop seemed like a nice enough guy. I mean, if I was a policeman and someone phoned and said it's nighttime and there's a guy outside my house knocking on my door and he's not going away, yeah, I'd go check it out. What's going on? The cop comes, he's writing up Tommy. Hey, what's your name? Phil. Okay, Phil. What's your name? McGroin. I don't even know what Phil my groin means. I mean, I know what a groin is. I know what Phil. I don't know how you fill a groin. I don't know. Maybe it's a Britishism. But you get the cop is. I mean, he's not arresting him, but he's writing up a very official piece of paper. And Tommy is not just cool as a cucumber. He's making jokes. He's making jokes to the cop. And the cop says, what's your name? And you'll notice he gave him his legal name, Stephen Lennon. Tommy Robinson is a nickname. His real name is Stephen Lennon. So Tommy actually did give his real name to the cop there. But not before going with a practical joke for a long time. I mean, it seemed long to me. It's probably less than a minute, but when a cop is filling out a form with your name, what's your name? Phil. What's your last name? McGroin. How do you spell that? He spelled like he kept that joke going as long as he could, and he was giggling. I mean, I'm giggling now too, but I'm laughing because it's so absurd. He was giggling in the moment. That's Tommy Robinson. I see a new super chat. It's supposed to, feel my groin. Feel my groin. Kyle Fairchild says, okay, now I get it. It wasn't Phil, it's feel my groin. That's funny. I didn't understand Phil. Phil McGroin, feel McGroin. Okay, thank you for explaining. You got it. I'm a little bit slow on the uptake. Yeah, thank you for explaining the joke to me. That's funny. Imagine telling a policeman. Oh my God, Tommy. Would you agree with me, my viewer friends, that Tommy is a rascal? Would you agree with me that he's a handful? Let me tell you, we've had a number of handfuls work for the Rebel over the years. Some of them I prefer not to mention by name. We've had a lot of characters pass through the Rebel over the years, but would you agree with me that Tommy probably has the biggest personality of all of them? And sometimes he would stress me out. You don't think I was just a tiny bit stressed out that he's engaging the cop in that manner? There was the occasion he went to court in Canterbury, and he didn't just stress me out, he put us in a 5-alarm situation where we got a legal dream team and got him out. And he's a bit of a handful because Tommy's not built to have a boss of any sort, even a boss who likes him. Obviously, I like Tommy. Tommy's not built for a boss. Tommy drives you crazy. Tommy is probably the most stubborn person I've ever met in my life. But that's not a cause to throw a guy in jail. And the stubbornness that Tommy showed by going to that courthouse in Leeds, despite being under a suspended sentence from Canterbury, is not a reason to imprison him. Simply being stubborn is not a crime. And I put it to you, what Tommy did outside Leeds did not break any law and was not a contempt of court. He did not reveal any confidences from the trial inside. He did not call the criminals criminals. He called them accused or alleged criminals. He only read a BBC publication with the names of the accused. And if Tommy goes to prison for that, how does the BBC itself not? So I'm laughing at Tommy the rascal. I'm pulling my hair out at Tommy the rascal. I'm telling you that he's as stubborn in real life as he looks on TV. Not everyone, he's self-deprecating. He's not the tallest guy. And he makes fun of his lack of height. He's self-deprecating, he's funny. Even that, feel my groin, you gotta admit that's a little bit funny. People who meet Tommy like him because he's hail fellow well met. And even when we would occasionally drive through the UK countryside he always goes to the north of Britain. And we would be at a gas station and he would go and we would all stretch our legs because these were long drives. And people would come up and he would meet anyone, including Muslims, who really made a beeline towards Tommy. Tommy would always start on the right foot. He would always start friendly, assume the best. He was cautious. You could see he was looking around. And his cousin Kev was there in case anything went sideways. But Tommy always had a friendly approach. He called everyone bruv or mate, which are friendly little Britishisms. And I think his imprisonment is unjust, and that's why we talk about him. All right, enough about Tommy. I just wanted to show you that little joke from Tommy Robinson. Let's talk about. I told you about Justin Trudeau and how his dad hit his mom. He used to give her a black eye. I told you how Justin Trudeau himself is now being outed as being a groper some years ago, and the Canadian media has kept that a secret for 18 years. Showed you that Tommy video. That was not planned. Thanks, team, for finding that video in a hurry. Let me show you a clip of Alice Johnson, a black woman who had a peripheral role in a drug deal. She was not a drug kingpin. She landed life in prison without parole. I mean, you think Tommy Robinson's treatment is harsh. Imagine being in prison for decades for making one dumb move, for decades. Let me show you the sheer joy and hope. You want to see the dictionary definition of joy and redemption and a second chance? Well, watch this lady.
I'm free to start over. I cannot. This is the greatest day of my life. I cannot. My heart is just bursting with gratitude for what has taken place, what has happened to me today. I had to report back to my unit team. And when I got there, my case manager, Mr. Holler, he was calling. I knew I had an attorney call, but I still didn't know what it was. And when they all came on, then I heard Kim Kardashian's voice. And she was the one who told me that it had happened, that I was free, that I was going to rejoin my family. Oh my God. Kim told me when she left that White House meeting that no matter how this turns out, that she will never stop fighting for me until I come home. So she's an incredible woman, an amazing woman. God bless all of y'all too for even covering this. And I have to say this, God bless America too.
I want to say to President Trump, I am going to make you proud that you gave me this second chance in life, and I will not disappoint the American public.
Hi,
There was another part of the clip, and maybe we'll even find it, is she says, I praise Jesus. In fact, if we can find that one. Do we have that one, the praise Jesus one? There's a great clip of Alice Johnson saying, I praise Jesus. This couldn't be done without, I love you, Jesus. He praises, she praises Kim Kardashian, and then she praises Donald John Trump. Uses all three of his names, and she goes on for quite a bit. It doesn't surprise me that that clip we showed there, which was taken from CNN, excised her very specific reference to Donald Trump. If we can find that one, I'd like to play it. It's not critically important, but the very fact that that CNN clip cut out her extended praise of Trump, it's not a surprise to me, because it's such a beautiful story. And if we can find that other clip, where she names the big three. Jesus, first, got to give him praise. Kim Kardashian, the queen, and then Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Why didn't Barack Obama pardon this woman? She's a black woman. I mean, did 95% of black women vote for Obama? 99%? That's the demographic group that votes more in line as an ethnic group than any others. The Jews vote Democrats 60, 70%. Hispanics about the same, but black women, it's very overwhelmingly Obama supporters. Why didn't Barack Obama pardon her? I don't know why. I have a list in front of me of a short list of people that Barack Obama has, that Donald Trump has pardoned. It includes Jack Johnson. Now, he's dead now, he's deceased, but he was the first black heavyweight boxing champion, and he was convicted 105 years ago, like in 1913, of transporting a white woman across state lines, which was against the law, Jim Crow laws back then, like it was a racist law. And over the course of his life, he spent 10 months in prison, and he was a great fighter. He was a great boxer, and Sylvester Stallone brought that case to the attention of Trump. And for years, people have been trying to exonerate and pardon Jack Johnson, no relation to Alice Johnson, I'm sure. So again, you've got a black sports hero, a groundbreaking man in the African American community. Sports, I mean, remember, sports weren't always integrated, right? So here you have a black heavyweight boxing champion who was probably convicted properly, but under an odious law. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that the trial was unfair in its procedure, but the substance of it, you know, it was a racist law that was on the books in 1913. So for a man to serve time in jail for racist law, that strikes me as something that ought to be pardoned. Why didn't Barack Obama do that? He was busy pardoning all sorts of weird, I mean, and the Democrats are the worst at this. They pardon their big donors. Mark Rich is the name that comes to mind. Huge donors. Dinesh D'Souza was someone that Donald Trump pardoned very recently. He is Indian Canadian. I'm not sure what his religion is, but he's from India originally. I think he's Goan or something. And he was arrested and imprisoned on trumped-up charges. He donated, I think, $10,000 and didn't comply with election financing laws in the state, so he's sent to prison. Rosie O'Donnell, just for comparison, just a few weeks ago was revealed she did exactly the same thing as Dinesh D'Souza 5 times, making donations in different names from different addresses, which suggests a guilty mind. No charges, let alone imprisonment, so Trump pardoned D'Souza. I think it's a symbol that he was going to undo the political convictions and prosecutions of the Obama era. There was one more example I'll mention. It was a Orthodox Jew who was the executive of a kosher meatpacking company. His name was Sholem Rubashkin, and 9 years ago he was convicted of money laundering, which involved him sending banks fake statements to make his company look richer than it was, to borrow more money. So it was a little bit of fraud. He was sentenced to 27 years in prison, which seemed quite harsh, and Democrats and Republicans alike called for his pardoning for years, and Trump did it. So these aren't, I mean, Dinesh D'Souza is a right-winger, it's true, but his case was so out of line with sentencing norms and prosecution norms. So I would put to you the case of this Jewish butcher, 27-year prison sentence. Alice Johnson, 21 years for a tiny role. I'm not condoning drug dealing. I'm just saying, really, 21 years? And the old case of the black heavyweight boxer who should never have been charged, he was charged under a bizarre racial law. That's how Trump is using the power of the pardon. I think it's wonderful. And the fact that Kim Kardashian and Sylvester Stallone were involved to bring these cases to Trump's attention, yeah, it looks a little goofy, but if they're using their celebrity for good, and I think it is good in these cases, what's wrong with that? We hear celebrities opining on the stupidest things all the time. I think Sylvester Stallone and Kim Kardashian can put a little check mark in the good things they've done in their life to help get people. I mean, the case of Jack Johnson, I mean, obviously he's dead. It will not give him any relief, but it sets the historical record straight. And I think Sylvester Stallone, I think he did a good thing. And Kim Kardashian does a lot of silly things, a lot of gossipy celebrity things that have little matter and substance. But I put it to you that what Kim Kardashian did, using her celebrity to get access to the president, to get a genuine good thing done. Do we have that other tape from? No, we don't. I saw it on Twitter. It was just really nice. Her sheer joy and talking about how she was born again, really. It was really nice. My point is that this is so unusual that celebrities actually do something. Normally they just virtue signal. You know, there was a movie, I think, Forgetting Sarah Silverman was what it was called, and Russell Brand was an actor and then he was a singer. Justin, could you look up that video called "We Want to Do Something" by Infant Sorrow? Russell Brand played a character in this movie, Saving Silverman, a rock star who was extremely louche, and he, in the movie, he was the leader of a band called Infant Sorrow. Isn't that just silly right there? And he was such an outrageous, it was actually a pretty funny movie. It was the first thing I'd really seen Russell Brand in. And he made this real music video as this fake band, Infant Sorrow. And the video is, "We Gotta Do Something." And I just want to show you, and it was mocking celebrities who said, "We just got to do something, man. Just got to do something." Do we have that video handy? Let me just play for you 60 seconds. Russell Brand pretending to be Infant Sorrow, doing a song that is, it just nails 99% of Hollywood, but in this case it doesn't nail Sly Stallone or Kim Kardashian, who are real. Watch this Russell Brand video.
Lately Mother Earth has been feeling unsatisfied. I'd say it's plain from the rain the sweet lady has started to cry. Fires crackle and blaze in the rays of her burning heart, and I don't think it's smart to lay and wait for the day that she dies in our arms. We gotta do something. We gotta do something. Before Mother Earth gets any more hurt, we gotta do something. From what I've read, there's a lot of bad stuff in the world today. It's been said it's getting rough to find a place where the children play. So, Mr. Prime Minister and Mr. President, you better see that it's not only me, no. Our mothers rising in size and they've been dying to scream.
All right, we don't have to watch more. It's just, we got to do something, man. Maybe I'll just make a video say we got to do something, man. I was looking at the comments as we were playing that, and someone corrects me and says that Alice Johnson had her sentence commuted, not pardoned. I appreciate the clarification, and I also realized that I said the movie was called Forgetting Sarah Silverman instead of Forgetting Sarah Marshall. But you get my point. I hope you do, that most of the time Hollywood praises itself for virtue signaling, like at the Oscars denouncing global warming or something, but actually to use your personal capital with the president to ask for a favor for someone you've never met. I think that actually is my esteem for Kim Kardashian, which was extremely low, is now less low. Okay, it's 12:57, oh my God, we're almost out of time. And I was going to show you Samantha Bee and her fake apology, non-apology. You know what? Let me save that for tomorrow. How short's the clip? How long's the clip? You know what? We don't even have time to play the whole clip. I'm going to do that tomorrow. Okay, I apologize. We lost. Or why don't we run 5 minutes late today? Let's run 5 minutes late because we had at least 5 minutes with internet shenanigans. Okay, just to recap. Samantha Bee, an unfunny Canadian. There are funny Canadians. Samantha Bee ain't one of them. She's one of those comedians who think that in the era of Donald Trump, just saying Democrat talking points with a laugh track underneath them is comedy. I don't think that's true. So the other day, she called Ivanka Trump a feckless C-U-N-T. But she said the word, obviously. It was bleeped before it went to TV. Now, I know enough about the world of TV, having had a show on the National Sun News Network and doing my shows here at our more lower scale internet productions, that you write a script and it is reviewed by producers. And in the case of Samantha Bee, it would probably be reviewed by lawyers. And here at our little Rebel News Network, at least 5 people or 6 people see my comments before I do my 8 p.m. show. Not this. I'm going live right here with you right now, and I'm just unscripted. But Samantha Bee's show is scripted. It's written, it's fed into a teleprompter, she reads it. People who touch that include her show's various producers, the person who rolls the teleprompter for her. It would not surprise me if 5 people here, 5 or 6 people here, see my 8 p.m. show before it goes, at least the text of it. I can't imagine that fewer than 10 people reviewed and approved Samantha Bee's script. It wasn't an off-the-cuff remark. This was around the same time Roseanne Barr was fired from ABC for her top-rated sitcom because she made a joke that she regretted immediately, apologized for sincerely immediately, off the cuff on Twitter. Twitter's instant. Samantha Bee was scripted. It was no accident to call Ivanka Trump that name, and it was not an independent act of her accident or a gaffe. Take a look at her so-called apology. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Samantha Bee. You know, a lot of people were offended and angry that I used an epithet to describe the president's daughter and advisor last week. It is a word I have used on the show many times, hoping to reclaim it. This time, I used it as an insult. I crossed the line, I regret it, and I do apologize for that. The problem is that many women have heard that word at the worst moments of their lives. A lot of them don't want that word reclaimed. They want it gone. And I don't blame them. I don't want to inflict more pain on them. I want this show to be challenging and I want it to be honest, but I never intended it to hurt anyone except Ted Cruz. Many men were also offended by my use of the word. I do not care about that. I hate that this distracted from more important issues. I hate that I did something to contribute to the nightmare of 24-hour news cycles that we're all white-knuckling through. I should have known that a potty-mouthed insult would be inherently more interesting to them than juvenile immigration policy. I would do anything to help those kids. I hate that this distracted from them, so to them, I am also sorry. And look, if you are worried about the death of civility, don't sweat it. I'm a comedian. People who hone their voices in basement bars while yelling back at drunk hecklers are definitely not paragons of civility. I'm really sorry that I said that word, but you know what? Civility is just nice words. Maybe we should all worry a little bit more about the niceness of our actions. Okay, thanks for listening.
By the way, can you Google it? I tweeted it the other day. It's a Daily Wire story. About Samantha Bee's husband working to keep poor black kids out of their school. It's a Daily Wire story, just Samantha Bee husband, black school. I want to show that in a second. I'm just talking to our producers here. Let me go through that apology there. Did she say sorry to Ivanka Trump? No, actually she didn't, did she? She didn't. Go watch it again. She did not apologize to the person she called that name to. Step one. Step two, An apology isn't "I'm sorry, but." It's "I'm sorry." We got an "I'm sorry, but," and then a minute of 45 of "but," didn't we? She says her offense was, if you listen to her, her meaning is, "I'm sorry because I distracted from the real offense that the Trump administration is doing." So it's, "I'm sorry you were offended. I'm sorry you reacted the way you did. I'm sorry I gave my enemies ammo." Not "I'm sorry for what I did." And what's with the "I'm sorry"? What about the "we're sorry"? But I think one of the grossest parts was, we have to do something. We have to do so. What have you done, Samantha Bee? Like, what have you done? I know what Kim Kardashian and Sly Stallone just did. They did something. Can we put up that Daily Wire story? Here we go. Samantha Bee's husband fights to keep poor black kids out of his children's school. This was from last year in the Daily Wire. Jason Jones is not only a former correspondent for the left-wing Daily Show, he is also husband to Samantha Bee, one of the leftist leaders of the so-called resistance movement against President Trump. Oh, and Jones doesn't want the city of New York to move his children's school to a location that would make it more accessible to poor black kids. Can you scroll down a little bit? Both Samantha Bee and Jason Jones are wealthy and very white. According to the Civil Rights Project, New York is not the liberal utopia it is advertised to be, at least if you're not white and wealthy. Just like when Democrats ran the South, Democrat-run New York has managed to create the most racially segregated schools in the country. Let me read this in one paragraph and then I'll come back. New York has the most segregated schools in the country. In 2009, black and Latino students in the state had the highest concentration in intensely segregated public schools, less than 10% white enrollment, the lowest exposure to white students, and the most uneven distribution with white students across schools. Heavily impacting these state rankings is New York City, home to the largest, one of the most segregated public school systems in the nation. Just a little bit more. I'll read a little more. Slate reports that one of the reasons for this is that in the Upper West Side of Manhattan, the most left-wing part of this left-wing state, there is never any resistance, you'll pardon the use of that word, to opening up predominantly white schools to underprivileged minority students. In other words, these rich, white left-wingers want their schools to remain rich and white. The current Upper West Side focuses on Public School 452, which according to Slate has anyway, I won't go on. But it's Samantha Bee who is working hard, or at least her husband is, to keep poor black kids out of school because, they're not our kind, dear. And so what have you done, Samantha Bee, in your life? I don't mean ranting and swearing at women and debasing them. What have you actually done besides keep black kids out of your school? Because, they're not our kind. They're not like us. You know what I said before about comedians being unfunny? It's not funny just to read a Democrat talking point with a laugh track. That was not funny there. So I don't, it's not for me to accept an apology on behalf of Ivanka Trump, but there was no apology offered to Ivanka Trump. And by the way, I don't think Ivanka Trump would want an apology. I don't think she would value an apology from Samantha Bee, and I don't think one was offered in any genuine way. I think it's something, I have a rule, apologize once a year whether I need to or not. It's sort of a joke. Obviously, we all need to apologize for something more than once a year. When you actually do make a genuine apology for something that you are genuinely contrite about, it is an enormously liberating feeling. Samantha Bee, in that 1 minute and 45 second ironic apology, "I'm sorry you were offended. I'm sorry Republicans reacted this way. I'm not sorry for what I acted." There was no genuine contrition there. So what we did not see was an apology. What we saw was, "Oh shoot, I should have been smarter because this blew up in my face." An apology is actually done often in private, not as a showboat attempt. That was PR damage control. That's a Kathy Griffin type apology. Democrats aren't very good for apologizing for things because they generally don't admit they're wrong. You saw the other day, I showed you a clip of Bill Clinton saying, "No, I haven't apologized to Monica Lewinsky other than publicly." He melted down when, in a shock move, a reporter said, "Well, you've never called her privately?" No. It's been 20 years and you haven't even lifted up the phone. No. That's Democrats for you. There's a lesson there, I think. I think if conservatives genuinely would feel like their spiritual and mental health would improve by making a genuine apology, go ahead and make a genuine apology for your own sake. But don't make an apology to appease your enemies. Roseanne apologized for her tweet and was sacked within minutes. Samantha Bee doubled down in cahoots with her team. That was a retrenchment and a counterattack. That was not an apology. There's a saying, don't apologize, don't explain. And the left has it down pat. I think maybe sometimes we on the right need to do it a bit too, although I don't want to ever be as gross as them. All right, folks, it's 1:07. We went 7 minutes longer today because we had about 7 minutes worth of internet problems. I appreciate the 700 of you for sticking around through those problems. I apologize. We'll take a look at what happened when we're offline and try and make it a little bit better for tomorrow. But thanks to our team for working very speedily to get it working again. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. If we have Tommy News, we'll share it. My problem is I don't think we have Tommy News because until there's an appeal filed, the news is another day in prison for Tommy, which I think is a grave injustice. Until tonight, if you watch my 8 p.m. show, or tomorrow at noon, if you watch this, which you do, on behalf of all of us here at Rebel World Headquarters, goodbye, and keep fighting for freedom.